Shalom, 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 beloved angelic family and Gentiles. Let's examine the constellations and planet of Ray 2 and how that ray activates the children of the Mighty One. Because this is the blue ray, it's the time for that ray, and the children of the mighty one are being activated. You can see what's going on. The 40-day fast is just about over, but it has been amazing. So let's get into the lesson. So for a long time, the Gentiles have looked at astrology just based on the personality of people, but they don't have a clue. They never had a clue regarding what was really happening and why people took on the characteristics that they did. They only had a part of the information. So let's kind of look at Ray 2, the ray of love and wisdom. So generally, when the Gentiles in Psalms 83 nations looked at astrology, the only thing they really looked at was the virtues, the strengths, all these characteristics about the person. But everything has always been based on the rays. However, because the Gentiles in the Psalms 83 nations never had the spiritual part of what was going on, they never had this knowledge. Everything they looked at was based on the earth, and something materialistically and something physical. It's something carnal. So the special virtues about Ray 2 is a person is calm, person has strength, patience, and endurance. The love of the truth. So we know right away from love of the truth that, Gentiles in Psalms 83 nations, they have no respect for the truth at all. Everything founded in this nation has been based on a lie. So you can't found your everything about you, about everything that you've done, your ancestors have done. You can't come back and found it on truth unless you tell the truth. When everything has been stolen, there's been a lot of rape, robbing, and murdering going on. And these are the ancestors of, the people. And I'm not just talking about, melanated people or non-melanated people. I'm talking about people in general. So when you talk about love of the truth, you have, if, if you cannot get to the truth, this ray 2, this blue ray, you're not there. You continue to have, as a child of the mighty one, you continue to have the spirit of the mighty one in you because that's what you were born with. But the spirit to activate the truth in order to move forward with Ruach, that hasn't come yet. If you have to tell the truth and get past all these lies, okay? So faithfulness, intuition, and I'm not talking about faithfulness, into some type of relationship or marriage or anything like that. That's not what this is about. This is about spirituality. Initially, when Gentiles had astrology, it was about the carnality, but now we've gone beyond that, and we can't look at this as a carnal thing anymore. We must look at it as a spiritual thing. So we have to rise above the carnality. So now we're talking about faithfulness to the mighty one, to the laws, his laws and statutes, not the precepts of men. Okay? Intuition, clear intelligence. And that combines with the truth. You're talking about clear intelligence. Now you're going to wisdom and you're combining with ray 3. Okay, so all of the love and wisdom, the clear intelligence, transcend right into that ray 3. So all of this works together, and the serene temper. So when you hear people online screaming and carrying on and all of these things. And, they use one script, to perpetrate why they're on doing the things that they're on there doing with all of this screaming. You already know that they've not connected to the Ruach portion. They've not connected to the blue ray portion, because all of these rays tell the truth about the person that you're dealing with. You just have to know and have the clarity to discern between the carnality and spirituality. Okay? If people are still conducting themselves in the way that they always have, then that means that they're still dealing with the carnal part of who they are. They haven't tapped into the spirituality of it. There are times when you know you can't be a serene person, but when you're running around screaming at people all the time and everything you have to do, you screaming at people, no, no, there's a problem there. You've not tapped into this ray too, this serene temper. There's got to be some serenity there. There's got to be. So devices of ray, the negative devices of this ray is overabsorption and study. Well, you got to remember, this is all a part of negativity, and people who did this book and all of these books, everything was done at a cardinal level. Okay, so when you say over absorption and study, you got to look at the big picture on that one. Coldness. There are times you have to be cold. Indifference to others. There are times you have to be indifferent. It just depends on the circumstances and the situation. Contempt of mental limitations in others. Yeah, a lot of people have that contempt of mental limitations in others, and that's a part of this ray. And this is why shadow work is always necessary, because even for me, I find myself getting not so much contempt, but frustrated with not just mental limitations, but for me, it's just a buffoonery. I don't like a lot of buffoonery. I never have. Grew up that way. I'm still that way. I'm trying to be more tolerant of others and their buffoonery, but there comes a point where you have to draw that line. So let's look at the virtues to be acquired. Love, and this is on a spiritual level. We must continue to discern between spirituality and carnality, everything we do, because we've been stuck so much in the way that the Gentiles and Psalms 83 nations have done things that a lot of us can't get out of that. You got to love everybody. You got to love, love, love. A lot of us can't leave that realm of thinking. Compassion, unselfishness, energy. So, compassion is the time for everything. Unselfishness. There's, you know, this has never been one of our problems for us as a people. We've never really been a selfish people. For the most part, it's because of the unselfishness that we have an enormous amount of compassion and love for others. It's so much so we've loved our slave masters that we've not loved ourselves. We're still voting for people who've never ever had the intentions of ever doing the right thing by us. And our people still are trapped in this voting thing. What are you voting for? You don't know anything about these people. A lot of us are still into all of these actors and actresses, and woohoo, we're so in love with these people, but we don't know anything about them. We know what we see, but we don't know anything about them. We know nothing about their character, who they are. but we love them, we support them, we're going to pray for them, bam, we're going to do all these things. But we, our biggest problem is that we're locked into a way of thinking. Many of us are locked in a way of thinking we can't separate from. We don't know how to allow the mighty one to do what he has to do, the divine one to do what she has to do. We don't know how to just leave everything in the hands of the mighty one except for what's going on within the nation, because we don't know anything about those people and their ancestors and what they've done. We don't know. A lot of us don't even know what our ancestors did, but we're out rallying up for everybody else, and we don't even know. We have not done the shadow work. We've not focused on the things that are important. We're still caught up in Gentile and Psalms 83 buffoonery. And it's because of that that we pull them out so many times with our prayers, not allowing the mighty one to do his due, the divine Ruach to do what she do, because we're getting right in the middle of that thing. No, know when to hold, know when to fold, know when to walk away, know when to run like hell. Stay out of it. This is called the ray of wisdom from its characteristic desire for pure knowledge and for absolute truth. Love and wisdom. The wisdom is the Ruach. See, that ray 3 starts coming over and mixing with the ray 2 because we as children of the mighty one have returned to him. Now he's opening up the floodgates for us, and we're able to have a relationship with Ruach. And then other things open up after that happens. So now the ray of wisdom, because of the pure knowledge, the pure desire for knowledge and for absolute truth, now the wisdom ray 3 pours in. Okay? When both power and love are present, the power is from ray 1, from the Father. He's the red energy. Okay? That's that red ray. When our emotions, when our thoughts and our desires have returned to the mighty one, now this power of the red ray mixes with the love is present because the mighty one, I'm telling you, all of this works together. You turn away from the love of the physical, the carnal, the material, and you start loving the mighty one. This is how all of this works together. Everything works to the good for those who love the mighty one, the source, the divine. Move away from all of these other things, because once we get where we need to, everything else will be added unto us. Can't put the horse before the cart because the horse has to pull the cart. Okay? And inactive without power. So cold and selfishness occurs without love, and inactive without power. When both power and love are present, then you have the ray of the Buddhas and of all great teachers of humanity, those who have attained wisdom for the sake of others, who spend themselves. No, it's not for the sake of others. The wisdom who you've attained the wisdom from the Ruach, so that you can give that, you can transmute it for the sake of others, and then spend themselves in giving it forth. Okay, it all works together. The student on this ray is ever unsatisfied with his or her highest attainments, no matter how great the knowledge. This is what happened to thought. It couldn't get enough knowledge. So it was always seeking that knowledge. The mind is still fixed on the unknown, the beyond, and on the heights as yet unscaled. Okay? So now we get to see, have the knowledge regarding how everything's works when you get to this second ray, this blue ray. It's this inability to obtain enough knowledge to move forward. See, a lot of our people, they've not moved past this ray. They have their 66 books. They have the relationship with the mighty one, but they don't have the wisdom. They don't have the ruach, because you can't move forward into the other books using the wisdom that you have, your desire to want more. You can't move forward into the other books unless you have the desire to have the pure knowledge, not just the knowledge that the Gentiles have created books and giving you so that that's all you get in 66 or 80 something books or 90 books. No, that's not pure knowledge. You already know it's not pure knowledge, because when you know that there were 12 disciples or 12 students of the Hamashiach, and there are only 3 in the 66 books that the Vatican is giving you, you already know you don't have all the books. You already know that. So the inability to move forward into other books, that's something that you've already decided within yourself that you have enough. And this is the Book of Mormon speaks about this. You have enough. So you can't say that, that everything is in these books, these few books, because it's not. Because this ray too is about pure knowledge for absolute truth. You can't get that in 88 books or even 100 books. You can't. It's not possible. The second ray man will have tact and foresight. He will make an excellent ambassador and a first-rate teacher or head of a college. As a man of affairs, he will have clear intelligence and wisdom in dealing with matters which come before him. See, this is all Gentile thinking as far as the purpose of this ray. It's all stuck in carnality and earth things, because they equate this ray with all of their teachers, all of their presidents, all of their ambassadors, their leaders. This is a ray, because they know about the second ray. But see, it's all based on materialistic, acquiring money, bitcoins. All of this is based on this ray for them, because there's virtues and their vices of this ray. So he will have clear intelligence and wisdom in dealing with matters which come before him, and he will have the capacity of impressing true views of things on others and making them see things as he does. This ray is not about making people see things the way that you do. It's not. It's about pure knowledge for absolute truth. Because the person who's trying to make you see the way that they do, they may not have the absolute truth. They may not have pure knowledge. That's not what this ray is about. He will make a good businessman if modified by the fourth, fifth, and seventh rays. The soldier on this ray would plan wisely and foresee possibilities. He would have an intuition as to the best course to pursue, and he would never lead his men into danger through rashness. See, this is what this ray is about for them. This is all about a personal leader. That's what this is about because they've had to use the ray this way because they've never had the spirituality of it. The spirituality of this ray starts with us. It never started with them. Mighty One has not dealt with them in such a way, not the way that He's dealt with us. They're getting theirs now. But this ray was about us, was about the children of the Mighty One. And you have to really connect with the Mighty One. And a lot of our people have connected with the Mighty One, but they've not gone any further. The Divine Mother, the Wisdom. So now that we know how the ray functions, let's look at the constellations and the planet because these rays that come to us, it's like I told you before, they transmute, transfigure, and transform. All of this happens in the cosmos and it comes to the earth. And we're affected by these rays based on where we are in our walk with the Mighty One. Because it starts with the source. Everything starts with the source, how you connect to the source. And then everything unfolds based on the relationship, how we've connected to the Mighty One. Okay, the source. So let's go to the book of Seven Rays Made Visual again. So this is what I've been trying to do. I was thinking about this because of the name of the constellations. So let's try to think of the constellations as the sons or the children of Jacob, because we are the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So those ascendants were scattered to the four corners of the earth. So it makes sense, why, the names of the constellations would be about Jacob, because the world was made for and was given to his covenant to his offspring, okay, to his ascendants. So I try to look at the constellations more rather than just saying the constellations as and relate it to something from the sacred text, something more spiritual, instead of looking at it with the carnal eyes that we were made to believe that it dealt with regarding the Gentiles and the Psalms 83 nations. And this is probably part of the reason why they never, they really get us into a lot of the science because they wanted us to learn their crap science. So let's get into the constellation, the astronomy part of it. Let's start by looking at Gemini. So the Gemini twins guard the mystery of duality. I tutor a set of twins, they're boys, and this really makes a lot of sense to me, the duality, the mystery of duality, because they are fraternal twins and they are so different, extremely different, but they know how to work cohesively together, to make things happen. I can see them in the different personalities. One is more active than the other one. The one that's really active, he can play by himself, but he likes to play with others as well. He likes to play with his brothers. And this duality, the mystery, is just making it work. How two people can come together and can be so different and make things work. The mystery of duality, polarity, everything coming together. Think about hermetics. Okay, one of the principles of hermetics is polarity. So, under the influences of the brothers who live in the light, a person becomes increasingly aware of intuition, which is a portion of wisdom. The light of the personality dims. Listen to this. The light of the personality dims and the light of the soul waxes, and the personality becomes increasingly responsive to the soul impression. This is how the light works. Focus a lot in the carnal world on, and your personality takes over in the carnal world. So you have to learn how to master, your job, how to conduct your behavior on your job, how to really, do what massa say do. I mean, it's really that type of environment because you're working under a system of slavery. So it's learning how to control your personality, which is the reason, they have in that Bible, slaves listen to your masters, because that's what it was all about. But now that you've left that way of thinking and you're connected to the mighty one, the mighty source, the spirituality starts kicking in and the personality changes based on the light. See, Ray 2 is the blue light, but and it's both a carnal light and a spiritual light. There you go, spiritual light. So when those lights transform from one to the other, then and you're controlled by this, and this soul waxes, and you're controlled by the soul, which is your solar plexus. Now you're starting to metamorphose. You're starting to transform. You're starting to change. And see, this is what the light does. The rays, this is how they work. When they hit you, they may hit you one way for one reason and they'll hit you again for another reason, okay? And the Gentiles knew this. They knew this. They have known all along that there was no spirituality in them, and when that ray hit them, it was all about carnality. They've known this. So the light of interplay reveals the basic duality of manifestation and the relationship of spirit and form. See, now the spirit comes in on the form. Man, this produces strain, action, and reaction, cause and effect. More about hermetics, the principles of hermetics. And that condition of struggle and difficulty, which is so characteristic of our planetary life, which is now a different type of struggle, because now you're struggling, it's a struggle between spirituality and carnality. You're struggling with doing things. Am I going to do things the way I've always done them? Am I going to see things the way I've always seen them? Am I going to now look at things the way that I've always looked at them? Am I going to control or conduct my behavior the way that I've always performed? this duality is all about struggle. It's about moving from carnality to spirituality. When you've connected to the Father, when you've connected to this power, this light coming from will the will and the power of this first ray, and it connects with your spirituality, but you've not completely transformed to the spirituality, there's a struggle, because now you have to control yourself and look at things, see things differently. Your behavior had, if there is no behavior change and you're conducting yourself in the same way you did before you woke up to the light, and your carnality has not switched from carnality to spirituality, and there has been no metamorphosis of self, you're still where you were when you started. I don't care whether you believe me or not. I don't care if you like what I say or not. I'm just telling you, this is what this ray is about, and this is what it's saying. This is how the Gemini twins come into play. There's a struggle here between spirituality and carnality. You're going to read the same things you've always read. I mean, this is about transformation. This is about that duality. No one can make you change from who you are, what you are, the way you are. If the rate doesn't hit you right based on your soul, if it's going to hit you right, but it may not hit you in a positive way so that you can make a positive change and lean more toward pure knowledge of truth. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And I didn't write these books. I'm just telling you what it says, and you can interpret it any way you want to. This produces strain, action, and reaction, and that condition of struggle and difficulty which is so characteristic of our planetary life. But it eventually produces the awakening of humanity to full planetary consciousness, and in the case of the planetary logos word, to full cosmic consciousness. The keynotes of the sign of Gemini are let instability do its work. I recognize my other self, and in the waning of that self, I grow and glow. So let me tell you about the keynotes. The keynotes are there because they took out the words of power. All of the rays had words of power. All of the constellations had words of power. They've all been removed. So they're putting it in with these keynotes. Okay? These keynotes are not as effective as the words of power. But the words of power were never going to do them any good anyway, because they didn't have the spirituality. So because they didn't, and they didn't have the clarity, because the words were they couldn't probably even pronounce them, they took them out. I'm just telling you, this is the truth. This is what they do. And then again, up here where it says, but it eventually produces the awakening of humanity to full planetary consciousness. And in the case of the planetary logos, to full cosmic consciousness. Well, a lot of that isn't true. This has been, I've heard, a lot of back and forth online between these people who say that they're awakened, and they're passing on messages and all these things. Let me tell you this. If there's any message out there about collective consciousness, you got to disregard that nonsense, because that's not how it works. The mighty one, the divine source, has never pushed forward a collective consciousness. Never. A collective awareness. Consciousness is awareness. That's never been pushed. Gentiles push collective consciousness in those churches. That's where this collective consciousness, collective awareness of Jesus is what they did. They gave us that beast to worship, and they said there's power in the name. There was power in the name for them. There was no power in the name of that beast for us unless we were walking that walk. There is no there is no power in the name of that beast. That person was brought over here by the Vatican and given to our people, and our ancestors were all brutally murdered who did not accept that beast because they had a collective awareness, a collective consciousness that they had to destroy what was in place by us, our people, our ancestors. That's what they did. The only power that was in that beast was in that church because that's where they use it. And they took the energy and the power from the source of us. We gave them the power through the ley lines so that they could have the power from that beast. He never gave us any power. There was never any name in any power in that name for us. So anybody still walking around there talking about, oh, there's power in the name of Jesus. No. Yes, there's power for the wicked, for those who worship that beast. Okay? Let's get there because our people got things twisted. We're still trying to walk in that same walk. It don't work that way. Do not go in the way of the Gentiles. The divine source did not give us Jesus. The Vatican did. And anybody still pushing that creature, I would be very leery of them. That's me. So, but eventually produces awakening of humanity to full planetary. There's not going to be a full planetary. Let me take that back. There will be a full planetary awareness, consciousness of the fact that things are going to change, and that Christianity nonsense is going out the door. That antichrist that they about this Jesus creature that they created and said was the Christ, yes, there's going to be an awareness that that creature was somebody that they created and that they got their strength from through us by using us and putting us in those churches. There will be a full planetary awareness of that. Okay, so let's take a look at Virgo. Virgin Mother is a sign that concerns the whole goal of the evolutionary process, which is to shield, nurture, and eventually reveal the hidden spiritual reality, the Christ consciousness within. Okay, so this is how the Virgin Mother comes into Ray 2 and the wisdom begins. We've not made it to Ray 3 yet, but once we connect with the Father, there's a powerful connection there, and we get past will and power of Ray 1, the Father, because it's all in the Father's hand. Then we end up, connecting through Virgo, the Virgin Mother. And I was reading that Virgo was really the first sign because it was being based on when the Hamashiach was born, the birth of the Hamashiach. So some are saying that that's when the cycle really started, was during his birth. Okay, because that's when the whole spiritual spirituality started moving from carnality during that birth. But let's get back to this. So the Virgin Mother is a sign that concerns the whole goal of the evolutionary process, which is to shield, nurture, and eventually reveal the hidden spiritual reality, the Christ consciousness within. Its keynote is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Virgo provides that which is needed for the mental, emotional, and physical expression of the hidden but ever present divinity. She is the cosmic mother because she cosmically represents the negative pole to the positive Father Spirit. You see the duality? You see how that works? In comes the Ruach now, the cosmic mother, with the duality of Gemini to connect with the Father. In Virgo, the purpose for which life exists begins to be realized, and the desire for personality satisfaction begins to change. See, Gentiles know all this. Gentiles know all of this. The recognition of the indwelling Christ assumes increasing control within the inner spirit. Spiritual reality is eventually released from its bondage to matter and emerges in its own true nature. Let's read this again. The recognition of the indwelling Christ assumes increasing control until the inner spiritual reality is eventually realized or released from its bondage to matter and emerges in its own true nature. There you go. This is exactly what the Book of Remembrance was talking about when it says that we are born with the Spirit of the Father. Okay? And then we're um, we're put into us when Hamashiach came, left the Spirit, he was there. The knowledge that he left was there. So that is in us. So when that part, that Christ awareness part of us, aware of who the Hamashiach really is, not this beast that they gave us in church, because it's not about that. We're talking about the true Christ consciousness that's within us and who we are. When that part of us emerges because we've connected to the Father, then the Ruach comes into play through the constellation of Virgo. We already have Gemini, who brings the duality because that part of us has connected to the Father. Then the Virgo, that the other part of that duality, the Father on the right, the Mother on the left, the positive and negative, the polarities come together. So when we're born with our own spirit, with the Spirit. We're born with the Spirit of the Mighty One that He gave us. When we connect to the Mighty One, it awakens the Christ child in us, that we are the children of the light. The children are pure for the pure knowledge of truth. And as that emerges and evolves, then the Ruach, the wisdom, comes into play. It all works together for the good of those who love the source, the Mighty One. This is not going to be some collective consciousness where everybody is going to have this. This is within the nation. There are only a few of us that's not reading, and it's still talking about Jesus, still reading those little books that the Vatican gave us, the ignorance. See, the death, see, our ignorance has died. There was a death of ignorance within us because we've moved past all of that cardinal stuff that was given to us. And this is how the constellations, the sons of Jacob, this is how his sons work. All of these constellations have a sun. They have their own sons. And I'm not talking SON, I'm talking about SUN, that emit power through the rays that comes from the solar or the galactic sun, the main sun. And it projects off into the sons of Jacob, of Jacob, that pushes this energy to the children of the mighty one. There's a method to the madness, there really is. All praises to the mighty one. Okay, now let's look at Pisces. Pisces, the fishes, stand symbolically, this is symbolically, for the soul and for the personality or form. Okay, so it's the personality, the soul, it's all symbolic. It's like you saw the Vaticans, those pimps wearing those fish. The energies of this sign eventually fuse soul and form. Okay? Pisces produces the incarnated Christ, the perfected individual soul, the completed manifestation of the microcosm. Do you guys get that? I mean, did you hear that? This is how the constellations, the sons of Jacob work. We are the children, the offspring, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is who we are. We're awakening to the truth. All of this, it just doesn't happen. There's a method to the madness, and this is the esoteric information regarding what happens to us, and it deals with the soul. Now we're getting away from the astrological part as far as the astrology, but as far as the personality, but the astrology is still there. It doesn't go anywhere. It has to be there because it's the 12 sons of of Jacob. So they're not going to go anywhere. The constellations aren't going anywhere. It's a transformation from that personality, from the cardinal personality, to now the spiritual soul. It's evolving. We're transforming. It's the butterfly effect. Things are happening. Under the influences of Pisces, a person develops from the imprisonment of the soul in matter and form to where the soul is the prisoner of the personality. So now we're changing from being ruled by our personality to now being ruled by the soul. Then gradually the reversal takes place and the personality is brought under the control of the soul. There you go. Finally, the soul detaches itself from the personality and reattaches itself in consciousness to the one who sent it forth. Praises to the mighty one, because he or she is in control. We don't know, how it works or who is who, because the Gentiles have changed so much of our information, but we know there's a source, we know there's a mighty one, and we know that there's divine consciousness there, that there's something divine going on there. So we're going to stay with what we know. We're going to connect to that spirit where we're going and stay in truth. Pisces carries the tests in Scorpio into the region. So if you're a Scorpio, you know, you may have some things that to work out. You're being tested. There may be some tests or something going on. So what this kind of say is that Pisces carries the test in Scorpio into the region of the mental processes, which is the reflection of the will aspect of divinity. So these are all energies. Scorpio has a different energy. Gemini has a different energy. Pisces has the energy. All of these, what we're dealing now with the soul, is about how we're transfiguring from a transmutating from a personality to the spiritual. And it all has to do with the soul. And it's all about these tests, every level of tests. Because as light beings, we are the constellation. So a part of every sign is in us, but we move from that as the rays hit us. And so it depends on where the rays are and what ray is in effect. And right now we know the blue ray is in effect. The blue ray is in effect. Gentiles use that, try to fool us up, but that's what it is. We're the blue ray. So the tests carry the self-will of the personality up into the region of the divine will. And the result is inspiration and the emergence of not so much a world savior, because we did the world savior thing, the heroes and all this stuff, and we're always out there, in there worshiping their Jesus, giving them the energy and all this. So we're not the world saviors. That's not what we're going to do. We're not doing that. We're going to let the mighty one do what he does. But what we are is the emergence of the children of light, the light bearers. And the light bearers are the bearers of truth. This is where we are. The keynote of the dual sign of Pisces is transmutation from negativity into positive soul control, and from selfishness to divine selflessness. And this, I'm laughing because I didn't even read this, okay? I just put everything together because I knew what I wanted to go where I wanted it, and now we get to the real deal. The keynote of the dual sign of Pisces is transmutation from negativity into positive soul control, and from selfishness to divine selflessness. So we can begin to see the tremendous, magnificent, interrelated, dynamic, and effective scheme of the plan of the Mighty One, in which our solar system, our Earth, and we human beings play a part. Everyone on the planet isn't human. The will of the Mighty One, the love of the Mighty One, hidden and latent in every living form, becomes gradually revealed, alive, aware, and finally triumphant under the beneficently impelling energies that radiate into our life from the seven rays, the 12 constellations of the zodiac, or the Mazzaroth, and our sun and its planets, as we respond to their reality and intent. The nature of the soul or consciousness is light. This growth of light in light has been beautifully and symbolically hinted at in the following, but I'm not going to go into what was down there. We're going to go into look at the planetary bodies. So now I'm going to the book Esoteric Astrology by Alice A. Bailey. And I have this tabulation here, and it has the rays, the constellations, the planets, the orthodox, which is exoteric, and then the esoteric planets. Look at what they have on Ray 2, Love Wisdom. For Gemini, they have that the esoteric planet is Venus, and the moon for Virgo, and Pluto for Pisces. And I think this may have a lot to do with them trying to get rid of the planet Pisces and say it was no Pluto and say it was no longer a planet. But Alice Bailey considered it a planet. So we're going to go into the three of them, just kind of briefly, okay? So Gemini is related to the etheric body. Okay, so this is during the ascension, you have your physical, etheric, and then mental. Okay, so this is where Gemini is, and those of us who are in the intertemplum, temple, we should know what this is about. Okay, so let's keep moving. So it is a custodian of conditioning energy and the intermediary as far as basic essentials are concerned between the soul and the body. Okay, the soul and the body. This is what we've been talking about, the transmutation. These are the two allied brothers. In the average person, the etheric vehicle is the transmitter of psychic energy, galvanizing and coordinating the dense physical body and permitting astral and mental control of the personality. When the man is upon the path of discipleship and upon the reverse will leading to initiation, okay, I mean, you've left all of this physical body stuff. The etheric body becomes the transmitter of soul energy and not a personality force. We went through the etheric body in one of the other videos. So if you need, to get more information on that, I'm not going to spend time. It's a long video, longer than I wanted it to be. So we're going to keep moving. The powerful effect of the second ray of love wisdom working through the subjective 6 rays according to the ray type began steadily to dominate the vital body, producing consequently the shift of force and of intensity to the centers above the diaphragm. So you're working with the solar plexus. We're no longer working in the lower kingdom. We're rising to the higher kingdom, okay? The power of the personality lessens and wanes while that of the soul waxes and grows. There is much to be learned from the study of the dual activity, higher and lower, of the etheric body and its relation to and responsiveness to the constellation Gemini, but it is too abstruse for the ordinary student. There you go, the profane, okay? It is nevertheless an esoteric fact to be borne in mind and will be someday astrology and will be someday of real service to the astrology of the future. So you can't throw out astrology because those constellations aren't going anywhere. They're there. They may change, but they're still going to be there. So you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. You got to keep something. You throw away the personality, the focus on personality, the constellations remain, okay? But now you're dealing with the soul, something completely different. True interpretation will come in true healing in all departments of human living through a proper understanding of the available potencies and energies pouring into the planet at any particular time. See, these are energies, the forces. All of this is about the forces of the cosmos and how it's come into the planet. So Mercury is the expression of the dual aspect of the mind as it mediates between the higher and the lower. Okay, so Gemini is about the solar, so moving away from the lower body to the uppers. So we're getting away from carnality to spirituality. That's what Gemini is about, the movement and the struggles that are going to happen with that movement. So, and Mercury is leading the way as the exoteric or the orthodox or unorthodox planet for this. So it says, this mediation again falls into two stages: the use of the concrete mind as a mediator within the personality condition and the personality life, analyzing and distinguishing between the human self and the not self, and emphasizing the me and thou consciousness as well as that of the personality and its environment. Secondly, it carries the message between the soul and the brain and establishes right relationship between the lower self and the higher self. It is therefore the illumined mind relating soul and personality. This process of the higher relationship is carried forth with the rapidity upon the path of discipleship. So let's look in the Seven Rays of Life book, and this is by Alice Bailey as well. So we're going to take a look at Pisces. As regards the rays which express themselves through the planetary rulers and which absorb or collaborate with the influences of the sign Pisces and thus influence our planet and humanity, we find a most interesting situation. Two major rays express themselves through the rulers of Pisces, orthodox and esoteric. The first ray of will or power focused through Pluto, and the second ray of love, wisdom, and the second ray of love and wisdom. It is the interplay of these dual potencies which produces a duality of this sign, brings about the major problem of Pisces psychic sensitivity, causes the lure of the path, in the first instance the path of evolution, and later the lure of the probationary path. And number 4, precipitates the process of transmutation and eventual escape through death, unfolds the significance, activity, and beauty of death and of the work of the destroyer. So the first ray, the ray of will or power, the divine ray, the father ray, that is the destroyer. Alice Bailey said this is actually a destroyer, and death occurs when you lose focus from the physical body to focusing more on the soul. So what we were told was death was actually the exoteric meaning of death, which caused fear, because we didn't know anything about any esoteric knowledge. Everything we saw was on the surface. So and then we get through this transmutation. All of this is about the transmutation from the lower body to the higher thinking, the higher tree of life or lower tree of life, however you want to put it. But all of this is a process that the body has to go through, and it's the transmutation. From this, it will be apparent how important and powerful is this sign. Through its orthodox ruler, Jupiter, that force is brought to bear, which brings all together, and in this case relates the two fishes and binds them together in a functioning relationship. This is the esoteric knowledge, and this is based on all of the earthly thoughts, the physical, everything with the carnal that we had to do. And it is the activity, consequently, of the second ray force, which relates soul and form and brings the two together. And this magnetic potency is peculiarly descriptive of the activity of Pisces. So Jupiter ray 2, under ray 2 is the fusion of heart and mind, which is the subjective purpose of manifestation. This is brought about through the third and the seventh ray activity on the exoteric level. So when we're dealing with the second ray and we're talking about the children of the mighty one, the children of light, it just seems that everything works together based on the the rays from the three planets and how those forces and energies come together and formulate that blue ray. This is the blue ray energy. This energy is coming from the um, coming from the second ray lord, and it transmutes, transfigures, through the planets to create this transmutation on Earth. So everything, it seems like based on the planets, it all works together. So, and this is how all the rays work. The colors go through specific planets to make things happen within the earthly body, and it's going to either be on a cardinal level or on a spiritual level. So it just depends on who the person is, where they are in their walk. And some of us, stay at the blue ray. We never ever get to the other rays. They may hit the chakras, but they may hit, or the chakras spears, or they may hit it in a way that's not conducive to growth. So when you find people staying in a certain amount of books, 66 books, 10 books, or whatever the number of books, it's because when those rays hit the spears, your chakras within the body, they don't, that lotus doesn't blossom. The flame from the fire, from the suns, or as it transmutes through the planets, it does not. It's not enough to make that lotus blossom. Okay, because we know know that plants need to be fed, or are fed through photosynthesis through the sun. We know that. So if you're not getting that sun through those spheres, the chakras in the body, in the microcosm, then there's not going to be they're not going to bloom. You won't get the growth within a certain microcosm that you would in another microcosm. And this all has to do with the sun, where the rays are coming from the mighty one, that powerful red ray. And a lot I've heard, people say that the sun, when it sets now, it's red. We got a red, we got a red ray on the earth, the destroyer. So it's a lot to take in, but I'm thankful to the mighty one, and the Ruach for the wisdom, the understanding, the understanding. Today, I want to close with something from the book Supernal Light. Many incarnations transpire from the time of soulful awakening to the moment of enlightenment. Yet every step upon the way, a sense of purpose and destiny steadily grows. Each incarnation brings to the mind of the disciple a bit more clarity as to the role he must play in support of humanity's evolutionary upliftment. A deepening conviction naturally arises as a consequence of this refined vision, and the steps needing to be taken likewise come into view. It is therefore important to understand that the soul's purpose is not something that is fully discernible in a single moment in time. Rather, it is best to see it as a gradually unfolding realization that becomes increasingly understood during one's life and more accurately over the course of many lives. All praises to the mighty one, to the Ruach, for the divine wisdom, the beloved Hamashiach, for the path, for leading the way. Shalom, beloved. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, beloved angelic family and Gentile.